Phantasmic Journey Podcast is brought to you by Tascam and Amazon Studios. For more than 30 years, Tascam has developed products for every segment of the sound and music industry. From the high-end audio professional in a major post-production studio to the novice of hobbyist at home, Tascam is everywhere. They are a company committed to providing their customers audio and video solutions that enable breakthroughs by using sound in ways that are exciting as they are accessible, even recording the voices of the dead. You asked for a non-scripted paranormal TV show. You begged for a non-staged paranormal TV show. You begged and you pleaded, and we have listened. We present to you Season 1 of The Paranormal Journey into the Unknown. It was released October 31st, 2017. In this series, we show you what it's like behind the scenes and conducting a real paranormal investigation. Join Gavin Kelly, Paul Purcell, and their special guests to seek out the existence of life after death by going to numerous haunted locations such as jails, hospitals, battlefields, and museums, collecting compelling evidence by means of video, photography, and EVPs. In this season, the crew investigates the St. Albans Sanatorium, Old South Pittsburgh Hospital, Jailhouse Pizza, and the famed Monroe House. And you can watch Season 1 of The Paranormal Journey into the Unknown on Amazon.com right now. Season 2 and 3 will be coming soon. Your journey begins now. As you walk the path and both the known and unknown, what do we understand? What answers are we trying to achieve? Are there answers? Tonight, we gather to find more verity. Join us as we take the journey into the unknown. This is the Phantasmic Journey Podcast with your hosts, Gavin Kelly and Paula Purcell.
All right. Hey. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Phantasmic Journey Podcast. We are coming to you live from the PGH Studios. Syndication is brought to you in part by WCGT Radio Live and Live 365. You can listen live to the broadcast via the Live 365 app for your Apple phone or your Android phone. And, of course, if you would like to use your PC, go to www.live365.com and search for WCGT Radio Live. Now, on with the show. There's a lot of strange things going on in the paranormal realm these days. What weird and wacky stories do you have for us tonight, Paula?
Well, I have a couple of stories. One is kind of to the paranormal. I think everybody knows, and I think everybody has seen on different social medias and news networks and different things about this nanny cam and this ghost that has appeared on the nanny cam. I'm trying to bring the story.
Oh, Lord, not the nanny cam.
Yeah, it's a video of an unknown that is posing many questions. What is it? Is it real? And what is it doing there? A family in Highland, Michigan believes their house is haunted, and whatever's more disturbing is that whatever is haunting the home is doing harm to their little girl. And it goes on to say that they couldn't believe what they were seeing on the nanny cam. It's almost like she sees something that we don't. Mm-hmm. It's almost it's an image. She and Higgins, the Higgins are the people that live there, said it's haunting their home. It was chilling. It was literally a chill down your spine like that. What's it factor? Is this what I just saw? Caught on a couple's nanny cam video a few weeks ago is what appears to be something moving in front of the baby crib. The couple says it appears to be a ghost.
Okay.
I freaked out. I stopped what I was doing.
Uh-huh.
And she said this so-called ghost scratched her daughter Lily and attacked her too. It scared us that it could do something else. I mean, there was a morning I woke up and I felt like someone's hands were around my neck.
That's not good.
A team of paranormal investigators came in and tried to answer some of the couple's questions and concerns. Higgins' father, Jim, said it may be someone who lived in the house before. The gentleman that lived here originally committed suicide, apparently by jumping out this window, which is one story down, said Joshua's father, Jim Higgins, which recalled a story he was told about the home. The couple said they don't know why this so-called ghost is targeting them, but says they don't want any part of it. It's not physically just going after her. It feels like it's going after myself, too. I couldn't get any explanations out of it, so it's freaky. It's what it is, Higgins says. The couple says for now they are staying at the home in a room together with Lily until they have enough money to move.
Oh, wow, that's sad.
Yeah.
So the baby got scratched?
The baby got scratched, and she had felt like she woke up one morning where it felt like someone had their hands around her neck and was trying to choke her.
No, that's not good.
No. Today is National History Day on asserting, and I know you're not a basketball person.
Nope, not really.
But everybody's going through March Madness right now. And on this date, in 1939, was when the very first NCAA men's basketball tournament started.
Okay.
And it was the University of Oregon defeats the Ohio State University 46-33 on this day in 1939 to win the first ever basketball tournament.
Cool.
As the tournament became March Madness, as the tournament became known, has grown spontaneously in size and popular since 1939. By 2005, college basketball had become the most popular sport event among gamblers after the Super Bowl. The majority of that bet taking place at tournament time when Las Vegas, the internet, and office pools around the country see action from sport enthusiasts and once a year gamblers alike.
Oh, wow, okay.
Okay, now the next one is about a location.
All right.
It's the old Carbon County Prison in Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania. The old Carbon County Prison was last used in 1995. There had been numerous reports of unexplained phenomenon at the prison in recent years. Mm-hmm. The most famous ghost stories associated with the prison is the handprint left in the cell by a man wrongfully accused of being a member of the Molly Maguires. The Molly Maguires was a group of disgruntled miners in the 1870s who used violence as a means to bring about change in the corrupted mining industry. Several men were accused, arrested, and eventually hanged at the prison for being a Molly Maguire. On the eve of his execution, a man who proclaimed his innocence ran his hand along the dirty floor of his cell and made an impression of his hand on the wall, claiming the impression would always remain as proof of his innocence. The next day, he was hung and the handprint was washed away. 3 days later, the print reappeared. As legend has it, the wall has been repeatedly washed and painted, but the handprint always returns. The wall is supposedly even ripped down and replastered, but the handprint returns yet again. The prison is now open to tourists, but the cell with the handprint is off limits. Visitors can still view the print through the cell door, though.
Why is the handprint off limits?
Because they've got that whole cell blocked off. But I did a little history on the jail itself. Mm-hmm. It's in Pennsylvania. The jail was built in 1869, 1870, and is a two-story fortress-like rustic stone building. It has thick, massive walls and a square one-story guard turret about the main entrance. It features arched windows on the main falk and on the turret. The building is most notable as the jail where the number of suspects of Molly Maguires were imprisoned while waiting trial in 1875 and 1876. Mm-hmm. It was added to the National Registry of Historical Places in November 8 of 1974. The building is now operated as the Old Jail Museum. In one cell, there is a handprint left by Alexander Campbell. A Molly Maguire, who was hanged in 1877, proclaimed his innocence. Legend has it that despite many attempts to remove it, including building a new wall, the mark still remained today. And there's what the jail looks like to you.
Oh, wow, but our viewers can't see it, though.
No, I'll have to post it. But it is an interesting old building, that it is a jail, and it's kind of, you know, it has that fortress-type look to it.
It does.
But it's in Pennsylvania. And then one last story for tonight, and then I will be bearing on our way. This one is a funny, strange ha-ha. How many of y'all feel like you want to get up in the morning and you don't want to really go to work?
Yeah.
And it's just one of those dreads. What can I do today not to go to work? But I have to go to work. Well, authorities say, this is in Dundee, Florida. Authorities say a Florida man didn't want to show up for his shift at Hardee's restaurant, so he called 911 and reported he'd just been robbed. WFTSV TV reports that 32-year-old Brian Anderson of Dundee told dispatchers Tuesday that two gun-carrying men took his necklace, money, and his phone before jumping into a car and driving away. Polk County Sheriff's deputies went to the scene and quickly realized that a robbery never happened. In a Facebook post, the agency said Anderson confessed, adding that on the bright side, Brian didn't have to go to his 11 a.m. shift at that restaurant. Anderson is charged with misusing the 911 system and knowingly giving a false information to law enforcement. So he didn't get to go to work that day. He ended up having a 4x4 cell as his Commodore for the day.
Oh, wow. That is a bit crazy.
And that's what I have for today, March the 27th.
All right. Well, our special guest tonight. She's always had a passion for the supernatural and a desire to seek out the unknown. Growing up in haunted houses will kind of do that to you. As a child, she pored over any information that she could find on the paranormal. In fact, she was fascinated that there were other houses just like hers, and she wanted to know as much as she could. Ghosts, UFOs, crypto, you name it, she was in it. When she is asked, how in the world did you become a paranormal investigator? Her response would be, honestly, I feel like it chose me. She had a third-grade teacher which told her she would never amount to anything and that no one would ever hire her. Encouraging words for a young girl to hear, no? Those words of a teacher stayed with her for many, many years, to the point she started to actually believe them after a while. Her passion for the paranormal grew even more. As luck would have it, there was a paranormal club on campus, and the world-renowned Paranormal Research Society, otherwise known as PRS. She trained with them and later worked as their case manager, interviewing thousands of eyewitnesses to the unknown. This, of course, led to the opportunity to co-host A&E's hit docudrama Paranormal State with Ryan Buell from 2007 to 2011, which chronicled the work of PRS. Then she became a host for Chiller's Real Fear, the truth behind the movies, which explores the real-life terror behind some of the world's most iconic horror films. She also hosted a follow-up special, Real Fear, the truth behind more movies, in 2013. Currently, you can catch her on reruns of Paranormal Lockdown with her friend and colleague, Nick Groff, airing on the Destination America and soon-to-be probably the Travel Channel. But Paranormal Lockdown follows her and Nick as they investigate and live in some of the world's most haunted locations for 72 hours. She has stated, it's funny to think, if I'd not taken my friend to Penn State on that August day, this journey may have never happened. And the paranormal in her life may have only existed in just books and, of course, her house. I am talking about the one and only Katrina Weidman. Let's go ahead and get her on the phone here, and we will learn a little bit more about her. Let's see if we get her here. We're waiting.
Hello?
Good evening. This is Katrina?
It is.
Hey, Katrina, this is Gavin Kelly, and sitting next to me is Paula Purcell, my wife. How are you doing this evening?
Hi. I'm good. How are you guys?
We're hanging in there.
We're doing good.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, thanks for having me on tonight, guys.
Oh, hey, not a problem. We're going to enjoy this. We got a lot of stuff to talk to you about, and I'm sure all our listeners would love to learn, more about you. I did read your biography, and there's a lot of stuff in there. Of course, we always start off with, how in the world did you become a paranormal investigator?
Yeah.
So.
Oh, okay. Are we live right now?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're live.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. So I wasn't sure if you were prepping me or if that was like.
Oh, no. We're live right now. 80 million listeners.
Oh, great. Yeah. So I guess that's the first question then. How did I become a paranormal investigator?
Yeah. Go ahead and let us know.
Well, I kind of have, I think, the kind of typical story that I think a lot of other investigators have. And it was just that, I grew up in what we believed to be a haunted house. Mm-hmm. There were two of them. The house I was raised in till the time I was 6, and then the house that my parents bought after that. And I lived there, throughout high school and on and off through college and everything. And we just had a lot of experiences. And, kind of the short of it was it left me with more questions than answers. Mm-hmm. Because I think once you have those experiences and you can't explain them away, someone's explanation of, oh, it doesn't exist, doesn't really do any justice for you.
True.
So that's really where, ever since I was a little girl, I would read about the paranormal. And, obviously I learned about the Warrens and their cases and, just other local books that were being made at the time mm-hmm. About different experiences. And it really kind of kicked this off for me.
Yeah, it sounds about right. We live in a haunted house ourselves.
Yeah.
We have a 5-year-old little boy and his father, old man Kerner. But the little boy is 5 years old. He died of whooping cough. And he loves to play with the TV, play with the dog, throw a ball down the hall. And it's just amazing.
And then we have like random little small weird things that happen all the time. Like this morning, all my picture frames were off the wall hanging, and they were all laying in the floor this morning.
Yeah.
Wow.
I got little fingerprints that show up on my 55-inch TV that is way up off the floor. I mean, it's mounted to the wall. There's no way any child is going, and we don't have any children in the house, but there's no way little fingers can sit there and get up to that TV. But believe me, they're there. So, oh man, I can't believe that 3rd grade teacher, what she said to you, and like right now, she's eating her own words, isn't she?
And
it's funny. My mom asked me about that the other day, and she's like, she almost like kind of forgot about it, which I found strange. I was like, you don't remember? Like my mom was ready to like kick some ass, like because I remember coming home that day, and I was so upset, so upset. And I'll never forget it. What had happened was I remember I was absent for like 2 days. Mm-hmm. And that was apparently the day they taught everything. So they learned how to count money. They learned how to tell time. Mm-hmm. And I missed it all. Oh, and we would switch. In my elementary school, we would switch for math. So this wasn't like my regular teacher. It was like my math teacher. And she called on me a bunch of times, and I didn't know the answer.
Ooh.
Because she was referencing the other days. And when it was time to switch back to our other classroom, she pulled me aside as all my friends were like leaving. And I'll never forget it. She bent over towards me, kind of did the stereotypical, let me point my finger in your face. Right. And she's like, you're never going to get a job. Nobody will ever want to hire you. You'll never amount to anything. Kind of like, what are you doing? You don't know any of this stuff. And I'm 8. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's like I had just been absent. And I remember running down the hallway just crying. I was so upset. And this was a teacher, too. She had my older sister earlier. So I think, at least for me, when people knew my sister, like teachers like that, it always kind of, for me, created like more of a special bond.
Right.
Because they had known me and they knew my parents and they knew my sister. And, you always kind of feel special. And so I was devastated, and those words really stuck with me for a very, very long time. I don't really think it was until really I went to college that I was like, oh, you know what? I actually am smart. I'm not just like some person that this teacher told me I was.
And the deal is, there's a lot of teachers out there that does discouragements like that. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I have 2 girls now that are fixing to be turning 21 in April, and I've run across that as a parent with children. I have run across that a couple of times while they were in elementary school and middle school, where you have that certain teacher that basically thinks they know your future, even though they really don't.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And I think for me too, I'm just somebody that I needed, like, when I was absent, but I excel in smaller classes. I get bored really easily. So I get like very antsy in a big class. And luckily, the next year, I did have my regular teacher, and she noticed that, because what had happened was they started to put me in all these special classes after that incident. And she had noticed that, well, I was in a couple of special classes before that, so I think maybe the math teacher had already, like, a perception of me. But my fourth grade teacher had noticed that I was just kind of bored. So I'll never forget that she really took the time, and she pulled me aside and was like, you know what, you don't need to be in these classes. She's like, I'm going to help you. And she took time every day to kind of put me on the right path. And she was very encouraging. And I remember we would do, they were called special announcements every morning in our school, and you would rotate throughout the kids. And, you had to speak over the microphone to everybody, and you had like a script you had to learn. And I remember she sent me this note just telling me like how wonderful I did, and, maybe that'll be your future speaking. And so she was really encouraging. So, you get your bad ones, but you also get your all-stars.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but doing that actually helps with stage fright and being able to actually speak in front of a lot of people instead of totally freezing up and being nervous. So you're actually getting your practice of being in front of lots and lots of people to speak. So, I mean, that's a good thing.
It all started back then.
One thing that gets me is I'm just shocked that there was an actual paranormal club on campus.
Yeah, I was too. I wasn't expecting that because I don't think I'm alone with this. I've met a lot of investigators that kind of have the same outlook. I didn't realize when I was growing up researching this stuff and kind of doing my own investigations, which is really just me with a disposable camera and like a creepy basement, right?
Right.
And, but I didn't realize how many other people did this. When I was growing up, I thought it was only Ed and Lorraine.
Right.
I didn't realize that there was all these other investigators who actually go out and do the stuff. I knew there were people that wrote about it, but it seemed more like storytelling, not so much investigating. So when I got to college, this was a time when Ghost Hunters was really big. And I was speaking with my aunt one night over the phone, and she's like, you want to see if they have just, a club? And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'll look into it. And, Penn State has this whole database of clubs, and I typed it in, and sure enough, this club came up called PRS. And I went to a meeting, and I only went to one because I ran into, like, all these problems. I just transferred to the new college, and I sprained my ankle. My house got broken into. I ended up with this, like, horrible 3-week sinus infection where it was, like, so bad. I was walking up a hill on campus, and I fell over.
Oh, wow.
Totally screwed up my equilibrium. So I couldn't even, like, stand straight. It was just, like, a really weird time. So I actually dropped out of the club, and I didn't come back for, like, 1.5 years, 2 years, something like that.
Wow. That's crazy. I mean, I know when I was in college, they didn't have anything like that. Actually, I'm pretty sure, I don't even think Ghost Hunters was even out when I was in college.
Like mid-2000s it came out, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I was in college in 92 and 93.
Now you've got high schoolers that are getting nonprofit help from local areas to help gather their own paranormal creativity spokesman group, or not really a paranormal group that goes out and investigates, but it's basically they go and maybe get together and they talk about different kinds of analogies and what's going on, and they do take, I know there's one high school, and I don't know where it's at, I read the whole article about it, but they take twice a year, once in the fall and once in the spring, they'll go to a haunted location that will let them have, and it's like a historical location or a place like Waverly or something that, gives them, because they're under 18, so a lot of places won't do investigations with people under 18 unless they give them certain exceptions.
Right.
So you've got, and you actually have a high school, they have an actual high school advisor that's been in the paranormal for a while, and then they have this team of 12 or 14 high schoolers, and they talk, he gives them depth perception of different things and analogies and all that stuff, and they have different kind of paranormal teams coming in and work with them, and then they at least do 2 investigations a year.
On that,
awesome.
Yeah, on that topic, what are your thoughts on kids that are younger than teenagers that want to investigate the paranormal?
Yeah, it's funny when I do events and public ghost hunts, I meet a lot of parents who will tell me that their young child is into it, or they'll bring their young child to it. I had one set of parents, I thought this was so cute. I think their child was, I don't know, 4 or 5, something in that range, and he would call the show Exploring Houses. Because, in every episode you're in a different location and you're exploring the house. I'm like, that's adorable. So I think, I think any child that has an interest should be encouraged, as long as it's, I guess as long as they're not hurting little animals or something, like that, encourage that. But,
right.
Anything that's legal, at least, if they have an interest in it, it should be encouraged. And I think, I think there's real danger in doing the paranormal as far as the elements go.
Mm-hmm.
I've been injured multiple times doing this work. I've gotten sick, like, more times than I can remember at this point. And, so I think, I don't know that I would, I wouldn't let a child go into a location alone without proper supervision.
Right.
But I think that's really at a parent's discretion. I think it really has to be, the parents need to be educated about these locations, what the paranormal is, what it isn't. And, I think I'm like a lot of the paranormal investigators where my interest started at a very, very early age, like probably 4 or 5.
Oh, wow.
And, my parents never told me it wasn't real. They didn't exactly encourage it, but they didn't discourage it, and that gave me the freedom to really get into this field.
Right.
To be like, oh, this is interesting. I'm going to order books from the Scholastic, book club about ghosts. And my parents always ordered those for me. So I think, there's a stigma with the paranormal, obviously, and that stigma is getting less, but it still exists.
Right.
But that's why I personally always find it really nice when parents are like, yeah, I'm not super into this, or we're kind of into it, but our kid he loves it. So we started watching these shows because of him or her. We started reading these books because of our child. And I think that's great because you're taking an active role in your child's life.
Yeah, the only thing that I actually have an issue with would be the younger they are, the more acceptable that they are to getting an attachment. I'm not going to say getting possessed, but getting an attachment, having things follow them home, and then since they are at an early age, it might actually symbolize that they have a quote-unquote imaginary friend, which is something that we've always been talking to a lot of our guests about, is because, when a child is young and they say they have an imaginary friend, is it somebody that they make up, or is it actually maybe a spirit that they're talking to?
Yeah, I had 2 imaginary friends in the first house we grew up in, and I named them after TV characters I knew on shows I would watch. But my mom talks about it, and she's like, they were so real to you. And I have vague memories. I remember one sitting at the kitchen table, and they had to have a seat, each of them, and I remember talking to them, and my mom was in the kitchen with us, and I was just talking away, but it's very vague memories. But my mom was like, there was an incident where my sister had threatened to hurt them, and she did, and my mom couldn't get me to stop crying.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know, was it just an imaginary thing, or was it something in that house? I'm unsure.
Well, that's the thing I always kept on wondering when people always say that their child has an imaginary friend, and I'm like, okay, well, the first thing I would think of doing is actually doing some research on the property, check out to see if there was any weird tragedy, see if any children died at that location or something, because something has to spawn the imaginary friend. How does it just, boom, it pops up, next thing you know, you have an imaginary friend. I didn't have one when I was little, but I have friends that actually said that they did, and they really didn't show up until like the parents bought some type of an antique from like a yard sale, and the next thing you know, he has an imaginary friend. She has an imaginary friend.
That's really interesting, the antique connection, because, we definitely see that a lot in the field.
Oh, yeah, because there's a lot of attachments. I mean, because you go to an antique store, and here's a prime example. Me and Paula were actually scouting around for some locations for our new show, Truth or Legends in Your Hometown, and we went into an antique store, and there's this one particular area where I started getting a headache. She walks over there, and she starts getting a headache, and we're trying to figure out what is causing it. Remember what it was?
Well, we really couldn't pinpoint it. We just could get to the local area where there's like several things on the shelf.
But they were old, though.
But they were very old, and we just kept picking them up, and it was just radiant right in that area. But there was 5 or 6 things on the shelves, and we couldn't figure out if it was coming from the shelf itself or in items that were on the shelf.
Right.
Or if there was something in that area that was reducing a smell of some sort, or that was causing the effect. We couldn't figure out the scenario of the situation.
It's just really weird how that works.
Yeah.
So, well, let's see. Paula always has a question that she likes to ask all of our guests. What are you looking at me all funny for? You forgot already?
Yes.
Oh, my gosh. You forgot last week, too.
I know. My brain's not with us.
Oh, my God.
I need to start writing it down and put it in front of me.
We have a whole studio desk in front of you. You ought to just put notes on it.
I know. It's been a rough day.
It's been a rough week. We've been busy with so much stuff going on. It's unreal. And I mean, it looks like that you've been really busy, too. I mean, you just got done with Paranormal Lockdown, and now, what is it called? Portals to Hell with Jack Osborne?
Yeah. I've been on the road, for 9 months. I came back home in mid-January, so it was definitely like a long trek there. But, I think it was worth it. I mean, we got some great evidence on both projects. So, and I know people have seen the lockdown episodes, which, I'm very proud of those episodes. And then people starting April 26th will get to see Portals to Hell.
Yeah, I've been watching Paranormal Lockdown religiously.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I threw a major fit when it was in the UK and I couldn't watch it here.
I know. Nobody was really happy about that situation, but that came down to, unfortunately, Nick and I never had control over that.
Yeah.
And as I'm sure a lot of people have heard by now, there was like a huge merger that happened with the network we worked with, and they were just trying to figure out when and where is the right place to air Paranormal Lockdown.
Right.
So, and it just, unfortunately, the UK wasn't affected by that merger the way the Americans were, so they were able to air it during the time it was supposed to air here, and it just sort of happened the way it happened, unfortunately. And I know a lot of people were upset about that. We were upset about that too, but it's kind of like you don't have control over that, and sometimes the network doesn't even have control over that stuff. They're kind of waiting for things too. So
yeah, I was just happy that I finally got to watch them though when they were released. So those places in the UK are just crazy. We've been invited to actually go out to London and Ireland sometime next year. So we got the London Film Commission that actually is bringing us out, which is kind of cool.
Nice.
And
where are you guys? Can I ask where you guys are going? Or is it top secret? It's okay with it.
Yeah. You know how that goes.
I do. You know what? When we spent so much time over there, and I really just love the UK. And it's funny, the last time I went over there and I got off my plane into Heathrow. And do you ever have that moment when you come home to your home airport and you're like, oh, thank God I'm home. You kind of just have that breath. I had that at Heathrow, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's becoming a second home now. But the places, I totally agree with you. And even the evidence you get, it's very strange. Not that we don't have strong evidence over here, but I thought, for me, it seemed like there was a more consistent pattern of more compelling evidence. So for example, like in America, say I'm investigating someplace here, and I'm there for 3 nights. Maybe, the first night is kind of a dud. The second night I get something really good. The third night I get 2 things that are really good. In the UK, it was like almost like every night you'd get something really compelling.
Probably due to the fact that the locations that you guys are going to, they're not really being investigated by a lot of people. They're just basically laying there dormant, and you guys are like the first ones to go in there, so all this energy is just totally built up, and it wants to share with you. It's like, hi, I'm here.
Right.
Finally, somebody here to see me.
Come out to play, I guess.
Oh, yeah. Well, I commend you guys on how you can actually sleep inside the location.
I don't have a problem.
Yeah.
Well, we started doing
if
that.
you can call it sleep. I don't know if it's real sleep. We it's one of those sleeps where I'm trying to think if there's ever a place we went where I got like a really deep, I felt rejuvenated when I woke up kind of sleep. And none of them are coming to the top of my head. Oh, actually,
yeah, there was one. Yeah, there was one because Nick had a hard time trying to wake you up. He's like, Katrina.
That's just me. Any type of sleep, you can't wake me up. I'm horrible. Like I will sleep like 12, 15 hours a day if you let me.
Oh wow!
I've been that way since I was a kid. It's a real problem actually. So, I warned them though before I came onto that show. I was like, just so you know. But actually, surprisingly, Black Monk House. I slept really deeply there, which is weird because I think it's one of the most bizarre places I've ever stayed in my life. There's definitely some just. I mean, listen, I can speculate all day long about what I think is there. But something is there, and I don't necessarily put it in a positive light as far as what's going on. And out of all the places, I would say that's probably one of the places I got the most restful sleep.
The Black Monk House. This one has kind of made me do a lot of thinking. What are the ties with the Black Monk House and the Hinsdale House in New York?
I think, there's no concrete proof at this point as far as, like, they have a direct tie historically, either just through events or with people. But if we're looking at demons from a biblical sense, there's a thought that, if one of them knows you, they all know you. So even the little guy at the bottom of the pyramid, right? If he knows you, the guys all the way at the top know you.
Right.
So there's this thought that everything's connected, and if we look at it from that lens, then it kind of makes sense that Hinsdale House is another place. I tell people to be very careful about what's going there because I really can't tell you what's going on. Again, I can speculate, but something is going on there, and it just defies anything I know about science. And so it's very similar as far as certain activities happening there and certain activities happening in Black Monk House. And I think one of the commonalities they have is that it's a long-standing haunting. So sometimes you come across locations where, and we've all heard this, right? Well, that family had a haunting, but the people who moved in after them didn't, so the family must have been lying. And it's like, well, you're making a lot of assumptions based off of something we know very little about.
Right.
I think people get very, and it's not really anybody's fault. I think we're all led to believe this through the media, either movies or television shows or books. There's been this narrative that's been driven into us that the paranormal hauntings specifically they work in absolutes, and they don't. We as investigators know that they don't. We know that our work is based off of, personal experiences, which are not always accurate.
Right.
We know that it's based off of a lot of speculation, right? We're working through different lenses as we try to put the pieces of the puzzle together and as we try to document. So I think, people, they think, well, what could be, why would they be connected? And it's, we try to look for patterns. And for me, that's the one pattern that I kept seeing was that they're both a long-standing haunting that seemed to have something more negative in nature. So again, we look through that biblical lens. Is that the connection? Was it just messing with you? A priest would tell us yes. A scientist would tell us no.
Right.
So, I can't say for a definitive, but it seemed like we were drawn there, or at least Nick was very much drawn there. That was an experience he had at home.
Well, we were told by a couple of investigators before we ventured to the Hinsdale house, they said to go ahead and offer tobacco. So we went to all four corners of the house, and we buried tobacco into the ground. And we didn't have anything bad happen to us, just a few weird things. I'm sure you've seen the movie Poltergeist, the original.
Yes, of course.
You know how they had the cameras set up when they were trying to film the apparitions coming down the stairs? They had one camera first and one behind it. All right, well, I had one facing upstairs, and I had one kind of at an angle facing upstairs. And they were battery operated, of course. And I'm talking, I'm saying, what was her name? Emily or Mary? What was her room?
Mary's room?
Mary's room?
Yeah.
Okay. I was saying, Mary, if you're up there, can you come on down the stairs and talk to us? We'd like to talk to you. All of a sudden, boom, boom, both cameras shut down. And I'm just like,
wow.
Okay. So I thought maybe the batteries were dead. So I replaced the batteries. No, the batteries are fine. And we did it again. This time I kind of moved the camera a little bit on the other side. And basically did the same thing. Boom, boom. Cameras are down. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. I said, all right, well, I'm going to fix this. I ran an extension cord, power strip. I plugged both cameras in via electric. Once again, said the same thing. Mary, you want to come on down and talk to us? And we heard a noise, and then all of a sudden the camera went doo-doo, right off. Even with power. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, that's just odd. Obviously, whatever is up there near the steps does not want to be filmed.
And that was the only spot in the whole house that we had problems filming at, was that staircase.
That staircase, yeah. And
yeah, we had similar problems there, too, with our batteries. They kept draining.
Mm-hmm. Did you guys experience, I don't know if you guys experienced this or any other investigators have, but we were upstairs in the parents' room, and you can see through the floor because of that grate. So you're basically looking down into the living room. While we were upstairs doing an EVP session, I saw a pulsating light emanating from the living room. It kind of gave me the idea of a old picture tube TV trying to come on, and it will kind of fade and it kind of get brighter. It was pulsating like that. Did you guys experience anything like that?
I don't remember experiencing, I didn't personally, I don't believe. And I don't believe anybody on our team did either. And I'm trying to think back to, I read Clara Dandy's book several times, and I'm trying to think if she had anything like that happen. I do know that area for them, that's where they had the exorcism done. Mm-hmm. And I know that's where, her one daughter's bedroom was built into the living room. It's no longer there structurally.
Right.
But I know that is the area where Clara herself would hear a lot of talking. Her daughter would see things like peek through the window. Mm-hmm. So that, a very active area for sure.
And the sad thing is, I wanted to validate what we saw because the camera actually picked it up. I had it set up on the corner, and it was videoing, and we can see that. Paula was on the couch. I was on the chair next to the camera, and I could see it pulsating. Well, I asked Daniel, and I'm like, Daniel, there's a camera down there, and it is shooting straight through the living room all the way into the kitchen. Can you get me the footage from that night we were there? He tried anything and everything. He could not retrieve the video footage for that night.
Wow. Yeah, and that's the way, too. Clara had, I want to say it was NYU. I could be totally wrong about that off the top of my head, but when they had the exorcism, they had a college come down and film it. Mm-hmm. As they were film students or something. And that footage exists somewhere. And we've been trying to track it down for years. And I can't remember. I think the last time I talked to Dan, I think it was Dan, he had made some headway on that, or somebody had made some headway on that. But it was 40 some years, nobody could find it. And everyone they spoke to was like, it should be in this file. I don't know why they don't have it. So kind of a mysterious thing that would happen. Why would somebody, it could just be a mistake, of course, right. But if it's not, why that film out of all the films? You know?
Oh, I got one better for you. You ever been to the Farrar Elementary School in Maxwell, Iowa?
I have not. I've heard so much about it, though. I've read a lot about it.
All right. We went there, and we were investigating and filming. And I'm going to have to go back to one of the stories that our special guest investigator was telling us. He said that his team was sleeping above the gymnasium, and they woke up around 11:30 or midnight to the sound of a basketball game. So they all jumped up, ran downstairs, flung open the gymnasium doors to reveal pitch darkness. Nobody was there. They thought someone broke into the school and was playing basketball. And it basically stopped once they flung the doors open. So
that's awesome, actually.
Right. That was their time. So when we went, he told me that story, and we were using the Devil Jersey box, and right across it, it started playing a basketball game. I mean, it was just cycling through just regular white noise and no radio stations, just white noise and static. And all of a sudden, a basketball game popped on. And he looked at me, grabbed my shoulders, like, that's what we woke up to. That's the basketball game. I'm like, really? So I picked up the box, and he goes, it's just going to stop once you get down there. So, well, let's just see. We walked all the way downstairs, through the gymnasium doors, and it was still playing.
Wow.
And you can hear the sneakers. You can hear the squeaking of their shoes, the announcer, the buzzer, the slam dunks, people running up and down the bleachers. Only thing you don't hear is applause and cheering. You don't hear any of that, but you can hear they're playing back and forth. So I'm like, okay. So I put the box down in the middle of the gymnasium floor, and I took the Eddy and put it on one side of the court and put the geophone on, and I took a Phantom Vibe, which basically is the same thing as the Eddy, on the other side of the court. I set up a camera on one side of the court, filming the Eddy, and the other one filming the Phantom. They're recording. We are actually watching this Phantom basketball game because while we're listening to it, you can see the geophone light up like they're already on that side of the court, and then the dots disappear, and then the other side of the court lights up. And it just keeps going back and forth, back and forth. That was awesome and very peculiar.
Yeah.
My camera shut off. Both of them shut off twice while we were in there. So after I felt like my cards were full, I went ahead and took the cards out of the camera, went to base camp, and dumped the files to external hard drive. And we continued on investigating and filming for the rest of the night. Well, when I get home to go through all of the data, 765 gigabytes of footage, it's all corrupted.
Oh, wow.
We couldn't even leave with
anything.
anything.
The cause why it was corrupted?
I'm speculating since I left the cameras inside and I didn't take them to base camp, because I actually have the recording of the basketball game. I'll have to let you hear it sometime. It'll blow your mind. But I took the recorder with me after I was done, put it in my pocket, and I left it at base camp. Anything that we filmed inside the location, corrupted. Anything filmed on the outside of the location, perfect.
Wow.
And I mean, we had some crazy things happen inside there. We have a lot of witnesses of what happened, but we have no valid footage. And I've talked to a couple other investigators, and they said, yeah, if they don't want you to film them, they'll make sure that you don't walk out of there with anything.
Oh, wow. So other people have had the same thing.
It just really blows my mind that they're able to do that. And one of the other things is we always ask our guests this particular question: how is it a spirit can actually remember your name? Say, like, if you show up at a location, and I'll just throw this out there, we'll say 2015 I went to Waverly?
I think so.
2015 I went to Waverly Hills, and I walked through the threshold into the morgue, and the other investigator was saying, what room am I in? And it said, morgue. And he's like, all right, cool. And all of a sudden, it said, Gavin. And he's like, dude, it said your name. And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, we went back April 4th. This year, I got into the body drawer, and I said, I was using a device by a guy, what's his name? Brian Holloway in the United Kingdom. It's called Speculo. Awesome program. And I turned it on and I said, what room am I in? And it said, morgue. And we got recorders and cameras picking all that up. And I said, okay, that's good. I go, I was here many years ago. You said my name when I walked through the threshold. What is my name? And it said, Gavin. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. How can the spirit retain memories when they're quote-unquote energy? I mean, how...
Yeah.
And besides that, how can they smell? How can they hear when they're not physical bodies?
Well, I think, in my experience, I think, again, we were kind of confused about what might be going on, right? So most of us paranormal investigators, we look at the first lens we go through is this kind of spiritual realm that we've all been taught a ghost is or a haunting is.
Right.
But I think we really need to remember that it might not be that. Or maybe some of it is and some of it isn't. I'm very careful to, I think on the shows you see, obviously the shows paint our investigations in a certain and specific light of looking at it from a spiritual perspective. And I'm not a neurologist, obviously. I'm not a psychologist. And it's not called, neurology hunting. We're not going to take brain scans of somebody. But obviously we have those connections if we feel like somebody is in need of a doctor or something.
Right.
But, we look at it through a very specific lens. But in my work, especially my private work, I'm always quick to remind people that this is just one side of what we're looking at. And I think it's dangerous to label things as absolutes. Because, again, I go back to there are no absolutes in the paranormal. So... and again, I need to remind people that when I say the paranormal, I mean specifically about hauntings. So, when we're saying things like, how can they remember? How can they smell?
Yeah.
Well, we're looking at it through what we know about our existence.
Right.
We know that we smell through our nose. We know that we taste on our tongue. We know that we have, memory in our brain that can, so when I meet somebody, I remember who they are, remember our experiences. Well, maybe this doesn't extend to the other elements in the world that we don't really know that much about. What I always go back to is, I know firmly that these things happen. 100%. I know people have strange experiences that they can't explain. I have had them myself. But 100%, can I put the stamp on this is somebody who's died and come back? No, I can't.
Right.
And I think saying anything other than that is misleading. But again, I emphasize that, what people hear us talk about, especially on the television shows, I always remind people, we're speculating, we're going under the assumption that, okay, what if it is A, B, and C? What if it is that spirit that we've all been taught, exists and it works in this very specific way? What do we find? What are our findings? What are the patterns we see? What can we document? And if it doesn't fit, then what else could it be? Let's speculate on that. Could it be something natural? So I always try to, remind people of that you don't see the full investigation on the television shows. You see very specific pieces of them.
Right. And that kind of brings me to, I'm sure you get asked this question at probably every event that you go to, if not all of them. Why is it when we are doing EVPs that we're communicating with people from the 1800s and not really our time? Why is it always the Civil War, the Renaissance? Why is it always just way back when instead of current?
Right. Well, I guess, you can go a lot of different ways about that. There's some physicists that believe that, the future doesn't exist yet, that the past and present are happening at the same time, that the future isn't. There's some physicists that believe the future is happening at the same time. So, then why are we not getting those type of EVPs? And I think, and again, this isn't an absolute because we don't have those absolutes yet, but one of the things we have to remember is that there is a very strong suggestibility when we're doing EVP work, because no, for me, sometimes I like to go in completely blind.
Right.
Other times I like to have a little bit of information. Other times I like to really delve into it. And, we have to remember that when we're listening to these EVPs, it's very, very easy to hear what you want to hear.
Yes.
Or to hear what you think matches the history. Because, again, in the paranormal, we've seen results with matching experiences to history. So it's only like natural to want to go in that direction. Again, because we're kind of, I think that the natural first step for a lot of people, and I've done this, of course, where you go, okay, we're looking at it through this lens of what we think a haunting is. Let's take that course first and see where it takes us. Yeah, does it match up to any history? I was just working with a location owner who does due diligence. She does so much justice with her history research, and there was someone historically that she didn't know about, and how she found out about this person is through a ghost investigation. Evidence that they were getting actually led her to dig further and actually find this person, and everything that they were experiencing matched this person historically. So there is, there's a lot to suggest that it matches that something is happening from the past and, manifesting in our present. So maybe that's how it works. Maybe it can only happen from the past. Maybe it can't happen from the future. Or even present day. Maybe it can't happen from present day. But I have had cases in the past, specifically with Paranormal State when I was working with PRS. There was, I think it was the pilot episode, and I did not work on this particular case at that time. I worked with the family later. We were still helping them throughout the years when the group was together. And the little boy in that episode, and I can't remember what the episode is called for anybody that wants to see it, but it was the pilot. That little boy was seen and communicating with a man who had, I believe he committed suicide just a few years prior to him and his family moving to the area. So, that suggests something more present. So it's really hard to say, but I think maybe a lot of times it's more suggestibility, maybe getting the best of people.
And the thing is about with jumping back to the EVP saying that your brain basically wants you to, you're thinking you want to hear what you want to hear. It's generally power of suggestion, and that's also the same thing as when you're listening to the spirit box. You're kind of getting the idea that you want to hopefully hear something that is dealing with that location that you're currently at. So yeah. That makes perfect sense. So, but we are about at the top of the hour, so I'm going to need to go ahead and pause for a commercial break here, and then when we get back, we're going to go ahead and talk to you about what types of protection jet you use when you go into a location, if any.
Okay, great.
You in 2008. He really likes to be around people. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. Look at this little face. How could you not love him?
Hamilton the Pug, Instagram star, and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
You make sure his toys don't have any sharp edges. You taught her what to do when the smoke alarm goes off. You do so much to keep your child safe. But are you using the right car seat for your child? Car crashes are a leading killer of children ages 1 to 13. Protect your child's future at every stage of life. For information on the right seat for your child, visit safercar.gov/the right seat.
A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
So you see, son, good manners are important. Should I go through it again?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Exactly. Always say please, thank you, you're welcome, and excuse me. Sit up straight, hold doors open, don't speak with your mouth full, keep your elbows off the table. Share your things, play nice, and generally treat others the way you'd like to be treated. Got it?
Got it.
And stop picking your nose.
Most parenting is hard to do in just 2 minutes. But 2 minutes twice a day making sure they brush their teeth is easier, and it could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain. Visit 2min2x.org to find out more. A message from the Partnership for Healthy Mouths, Healthy Lives, and the Ad Council.
I'm a retired school psychologist, and helping people was my thing. After my stroke, when Meals on Wheels started, I was on the other end of the stick, so to speak. My name is Julius Gaines, creative writer, poet, photographer.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the ad.
Welcome to Calvin's Barbershop.
You all gotta see this.
I don't even want to know what you're looking at on that phone.
Well, you should. I was learning about the dangers of high blood pressure and that we need to get ours checked regularly. High blood pressure can increase the risk of heart attack or stroke, but this text program can help keep it at a healthy range. Just text barbershop to 97779 to sign up.
I'll get right on it as soon as I'm done with this baby panda video.
Text barbershop to 97779. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
It's important to plan ahead for emergencies, like the storm. When it kicked in, we had a plan.
Separated.
We were able to get in touch with each other in no time.
Idea how to find each other.
The whole experience was fine.
The most frightening 10 hours of my life.
If there's one piece of advice I'd offer other moms out there, it's to stay calm and keep to the plan.
Message.
Some parents plan ahead, some don't. Make sure you know where to find your family in an emergency. Start your plan at ready.gov. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
It may be hard to believe, but people just like you are already saving money. FeedThePig.org makes it easy. Their simple savings plan teaches you how to start saving without going overboard. So you don't need to start foraging wild berries.
I was skeptical, but these are actually pretty good.
You don't need to sell your soul to the devil.
$15 is the best I can do.
You just need FeedThePig.org. Don't get left behind. Get tips and tools at FeedThePig.org. Brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Welcome to Calvin's Barbershop.
You all gotta see this.
I don't even want to know what you're looking at on that phone.
Well, you should. I was learning about the dangers of high blood pressure and that we need to get ours checked regularly. High blood pressure can increase the risk of heart attack or stroke, but this text program can help keep it at a healthy range. Just text barbershop to 97779 to sign up.
I'll get right on it as soon as I'm done with this baby panda video.
Text barbershop to 97779. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
They never graduated high school, so I'm trying to break that barrier.
My daughter, Brooklyn, was also a motivation for me to go back to school.
Every day after work, went straight to school, and it paid off.
At age 26, Kareem finished his high school diploma.
I could not have done it alone. I see the future is really bright for me.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
So I'm a cat, and I just moved in with this new human, and she's got this little toy she's always playing with, all day long. Tap, 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 bloop, bloop. She can't put it down. There it is. Oh, and get this. She even talks to it. Last week, she asked it for Chinese, and guess what? Egg rolls showed up. Like magic. Humans have cool toys.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
What if I told you that a tornado was going to happen tomorrow, right where you live? That it would touch down at exactly 3:17 p.m., and I told you the exact path it would take. You would, of course, prepare. You would talk with your loved ones, and you'd make a plan today. It's true, I can't tell you a tornado will strike tomorrow, but shouldn't you have a plan anyway? Go to ready.gov/communicate and make your emergency plan today. Don't wait. Communicate. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Weird. We had some weird technical difficulties.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, we've had some strange things happen. We've actually had a ghost chicken that happened when we were talking to Doogie from TWC. And we had a woman's voice go, when we were talking to TJ Justice. But on the flip side, this is your time to go ahead and let our listeners know how they can find you, what events you're going to be currently going to, and what websites you're on.
Great. So My main website is just KatrinaWeidman.com, and if you go to the upcoming section and check out events, you'll see I have 5 events listed so far for this year. The first one, actually the first 2 are nice, so they're coming up really quick. The first one is Midwest Parafest. That's the second weekend of May. I'm super excited about that one because it will be my first time there ever, and the people that run the organization are just amazing. I've met with them many times. The second one is the New Jersey Para-Unity Expo. This will be my second time there, and for anybody who hasn't been, what I really like about it is they keep the general admission tickets at $20.
Okay.
So I know a lot of people that I meet when I'm on the road, they're like, I wish I could go, but I can't afford it. What's so nice about this one is it's $20 to get in, and I think, there's certain like upgrades you can buy for different things. But you can at least come in and talk to people, meet people, go to their tables, that kind of thing, which is really, really nice. And then I have a Pennhurst event coming up, Old Mill Parafest in Dundee, Michigan, and a new one, Old South Pittsburgh Hospital in October. And then, of course, I'm on, just Twitter and Instagram and Facebook at Katrina Weidman. I usually post a lot of things about my dog because I love him. So if you like dogs,
oh yeah,
we do that too.
We have a paranormal puppy that goes with us.
Oh no, I haven't brought my dog. See, he got sick this year, so this last year, so I've been like, I baby him like so much, so I don't want him going in any place where he could get hurt,
Right.
But maybe once like I kind of let like the ropes go a little bit, I'll let him join me on an investigation. But other than that, yeah, I'm on social media and, have obviously Portals to Hell coming to Travel Channel April 26th. We're very excited about that. It's a different, it looks and feels different. And I think you guys will see, why that is. Jack and I work very differently together. And also, we'll have new music soon, and you can also check out my blog called Haunted Kitchens about food and the paranormal.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
That looks like something right up your alley.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, I'm a foodie.
Well, I tell you what, we enjoyed having you on the show. We've learned a lot. I'm sure our listeners actually have a better understanding of, your history, the haunted house that you grew up in, and things like that. We definitely would love to have you back on the show again sometime soon.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you once again for being on the show, and we'll talk to you next time.
Yep.
Great, guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right. Bye-bye now.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, there you have it. We were talking to Katrina Weidman from Paranormal Lockdown, and I believe she said April 26th is coming the Portals to Hell with
Jack Osborne.
Jack Osborne.
Another Ozzy Osbourne's son.
Okay.
Well, I had to throw it in there, just in case you had the Oz people, Ozman fans.
Well, I tell you what, we definitely need to have her back on the show again, because besides loving the Golden Girls, which I know you're
yeah, we were all like commercials were going
too.
on. We were talking about Golden Girls while we were on commercials. I'm a Sophia fan. I don't know how many of you listen to Golden Girls or not, but I'm a Sophia fan. I could picture myself being 80-something years old, carrying that little purse around, going to parties, putting food in my purse.
Yeah.
An old lady's dream of having a toilet in the front of the TV. I mean...
Well, I do remember there was one thing that always stuck with me with Sophia. She always says, "It's just like clockwork. Every morning at 9 a.m. I pee, but I don't get out of the bed till 10:30."
Oh, I just love the old Sophia Petrillo stories.
Enlighten me.
Ones, well, about her growing up, and she had somebody who had a goat, and
a goat?
Yeah, she had all kinds of funny little stories that she told. But the story about the toilet was one that was memorable.
Right.
And then another one was the fact that when her and Dorothy went back to New York to their old roots, because she claimed that her mom was being senile because her mom was remembering parts of her memories of her past, and it kind of relates to us with our parents, which my parents are gone, but it relates to our parents out there that are getting to a certain age, and we are the people in the middle of, we have our children, we have us, and we have our parents. And it kind of gave me a good flashback of remembering my grandmother when I was younger. And my mom went through when I was in high school, and my mother trying to take care of my grandmother and me raising me, going through high school and stuff, and my grandmother telling us stories that were, you know, to a certain extent they were right, but there was like missing pieces in it that didn't make sense. And so I like the story of her and Dorothy going back to Brooklyn and going back to their roots, and about the sausage that hung up in the
okay.
that hung up in the closet. And she said she remembered the height chart, but she thought the height chart was upstairs and the sausage hanging was in downstairs by the kitchen. Well, Sophia actually got it backwards, and the sausage was hung up in the closet in their bedroom, and the height chart was downstairs in the kitchen for all the kids.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, so it's just one of the small things that, you know, you remember, but you just get a little mixed up in the head.
Oh, yeah. Well, we'll talk about that when we have Katrina on again. I mean, there's so many things that we needed to talk about. We didn't really have all the time to go through everything, but for the folks listening, Katrina Weidman graduated from Penn State with degrees in integrative. Is that integrative?
Integrative.
Wow.
Integrative arts and theater with a minor in music technology. Yep.
And then besides that, she also does a lot of lectures at paranormal conferences and events throughout the year. She is a co-founder of Atherton Paranormal, which a group is aimed at furthering the paranormal field and helping those affected by it. And here's some other things I'm not sure if anybody knows about. Katrina is also a performer, a producer, and a lead singer of an alternative rock band called Away from 30. Need to ask her more about that. And of course, in her free time, she loves karaoke, cooking, which she just mentioned before she left, that she's got that paranormal cooking, was that a cookbook?
You know, it's kind of like a YouTube thing, I think.
Oh, I gotcha.
It's like some kind of, yeah. I think there's books coming out too, so.
Yeah. So she is very interesting, the things that she does. So we will definitely have her on the show again. And once again, you are listening to the Phantasmic Journey podcast. We're coming to you live from the PGH studios. Our syndication is brought to you in part by WCGT Radio Live and Live 365. As you can tell, it's live. So, hope you all enjoyed the show. This will soon be up on the website, so the ones that missed it can actually listen to the show. It was an awesome show. We learned a lot from Katrina. Everyone have yourself a good night.
The Phantasmic Journey podcast is brought to you by Tascam and Amazon Studios. For more than 30 years, Tascam has developed products for every segment of the sound and music industry. From the high-end audio professional in a major post-production studio to the novice of hobbyist at home, Tascam is everywhere. They are a company committed to providing their customers audio and video solutions that enable breakthroughs by using sound in ways that are exciting as they are accessible, even recording the voices of the dead. You asked for a non-scripted paranormal TV show. You begged for a non-staged paranormal TV show. You begged and you pleaded, and we have listened. We present to you Season 1 of The Paranormal Journey into the Unknown. It was released October 31st, 2017. In this series, we show you what it's like behind the scenes and conducting a real paranormal investigation. Join Gavin Kelly and Paul Purcell and their special guests to seek out the existence of life after death by going to numerous haunted locations such as jails, hospitals, battlefields, and museums, collecting compelling evidence by means of video, photography, and EVPs. In this season, the crew investigates the St. Albans Sanatorium, Old South Pittsburgh Hospital, Jailhouse Pizza, and the famed Monroe House. And you can watch Season 1 of The Paranormal Journey into the Unknown on Amazon.com right now. Season 2 and 3 will be coming soon.